So you married?
I'm going through a divorce.
What happened with that?
Basically, my husband stopped meeting my expectations.
What you mean?
So when I met him, when I met my husband, I told him what I expect from a man. The number one rule with being with me is you have to provide. I won't settle for anything less. So my husband ended up losing his job.
He had a job?
Yeah,
where he worked
at?
He
had a job. He was a manager at a warehouse.
Put the mic in so these people can hear you. He was a manager at the warehouse?
Mm-hmm. He was a manager at a warehouse.
Okay.
So he ended up losing his job. He came home and he told me. I'm like, okay, cool. All right. So a month went by and he looked for me to pay the bills. Who paying what bills? So I was going to consider it if he gave me the money back for paying the bills. And he told me no. He felt like he shouldn't have to do that. What do you mean? When I told you, as a man, I expect you to provide. Under no circumstances will I ever touch bills as long as I got a husband.
So y'all, please help me understand this. My lights got turned off. So I called my baby's father and asked him if he could get my lights turned on for me. He said no, because I have a husband and that's his responsibility. How is that his responsibility to pay my lights to get turned back on after they get turned off? And you have kids that stay here. You don't care about your kids? I understand that I have a husband, granted, don't beat me up over it, but we fell on hard times. So as my baby's father, I feel like you're supposed to pick up the slack. So you rather for your kids be in the dark than to help your baby mother get her lights turned back on? What if I didn't have a husband? Would you have helped me then? These men is crazy.
But the thing is, like, I know I have things to work on. Like, I know I need to work on my patience and maybe my attitude a little bit.
Who do you live with?
I live alone.
I don't know why women feel like somebody has to put up with your attitude. Well, I don't know why ladies, like women in general, or in particular, why should anybody have to put up with your attitude? Why is all this important? Because if you people who actually are humble don't have a lot of impatience or low tolerance for people.
Yes, sir. You just found it. Intercourse with you. Let's chat. Welcome to the Intercourse Show. I am your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you where we discuss a plethora of subject matters, from politics to relationships and everything in between. Anyway, I am joined by my panel today. We got Zay in the building, and we may have a few other guests stop by for a few discussions. We're going to start this conversation first with a reaction video with a Kansas City woman who blames men for her attitude problem. It's a Kevin Samuels interview that went viral, and that a lot of people are talking about. So I figured we'd go right into that and have a conversation. So let's go ahead without any further ado and get into the video.
What can I do for you?
Okay, so can I ask my question?
Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, Kevin, I don't know if it's me or the men that I'm dating, but they kind of make it seem like my attitude is like a bit difficult.
Okay.
But I'm not really sure if I have like an attitude problem or I just have like low tolerance for BS.
How old are you?
I just turned 27.
27. How tall are you?
5'6".
Dress size?
8.
Mm-hmm. How much did you weigh the last time you weighed yourself?
I'm definitely on a weight loss.
How much did you weigh the last time you weighed yourself?
So this morning. Yeah, it was this morning. I was 189.
Yeah. Look, man, that's not a dress size 8. I'm an image consultant in real life. Let's try that again. Dress size?
Honestly, I'm not really sure.
So you
but
lied to me.
Whatever
Yeah.
my,
See, I don't like people that just come out and make up stuff. You're 5 foot how tall?
I mean,
You're 5 foot how tall?
I'm 5'6".
Right, 190 pounds. That's yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm being honest, man. If men are telling you you have an attitude, first off, you don't want to be reading the comment section. That's not going to help because I'm having a conversation with you. And what do you mean when guys tell you you have an attitude problem, or maybe you just have low tolerance? What do you mean?
I don't know. They just make it seem like I really can't take a joke, or I just tend to have like not the best patience. But basically, they just make it seem like I'm the issue. But sometimes I just really feel like I know I have things I need to work on, but I just feel like sometimes they're just like not man enough
To handle you.
Yeah, like, but the thing is, like, I know I have things to work on. Like, I know I need to work on my patience and maybe my attitude a little bit.
Who do you live with?
I live alone.
I don't know why women feel like somebody has to put up with your attitude. Well, I don't know about ladies, like women in general, or in particular. Why should anybody have to put up with your attitude?
That's a good point.
I'm seriously, I'm being dead honest. And what state do you live in?
I'm in Kansas.
Kansas. It's good to, think highly of yourself, but I'm going to ask you a hard question. Do your attitudes match your looks?
I think so.
Okay. Where would you rank yourself, scale of 1 to 10? You can't use 7, just right here.
Well, I'm really natural right now, so I would say an 8.
An 8?
I mean, I'm being honest,
Okay.
yeah.
And when you're made up, where would you put yourself?
A 9.
So you put yourself up there with Beyonce and Kelly Rowland.
In my opinion, yes. I mean, I know like beauty is not.
No, beauty is very formulaic. It's not that subjective. See, women who tend to have attitude problems tend to overvalue themselves. That's why I went directly into something you can't lie about: your height, your weight, your dress size, your looks. See, those things are static. And what you told me is by 5'5", 190 pounds, you're not hot enough to have an attitude. And to rank yourself as 8 or 9, you can walk out into the world and nobody. If somebody put you in a line next to Beyonce and Kelly Rowland, age adjusted, there's no way that they would say you all look like y'all match. You can't honestly believe that. You nod your head saying yes you do or no you don't.
No, I understand what you're
But
saying.
I'm asking, what do you think?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
If I were able to take Beyonce and Kelly Rowland, age adjusted, and put you all side by side, people would not say you all look like you match. They would say this one is better than that one's better than this one, and this one does not match.
I understand.
But do you agree or disagree?
Okay, Kevin. So, like, I know you want me to just answer the
Well,
question.
if you give yourself an 8, 9, or 10, that's pretty, beautiful, or gorgeous. If you're an 8, what is Beyonce?
Beyonce is definitely very gorgeous. Like, I obviously know Beyonce looks better than me, but
Okay.
But
what is she though? Is she a 9, a 10, 12? What?
She's a 10.
All right, she's a 10. You're an 8. Then let's see, who could I use? What would K Michelle be?
You said K
Mhm.
Michelle. I would say like a 7 or 8.
What would Fantasia be?
Well, Fantasia, in my opinion, I would say maybe like a 6.
So you look better than Fantasia, and you look better than K Michelle.
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, Kevin, you're asking me.
I need okay, but what I'm asking you to, what I'm trying to understand is if you have I'm asking if you have any humility, an accurate estimation of what is, and you have proven even by whether you agree with my skills or not, you ranked yourself higher than K Michelle and higher than Fantasia. You ranked yourself a shade below Beyonce, and you are nowhere close to being. You're not hotter than any of those women. And you damn sure your figure, come on, we know that needs work. Why is all this important? Because if you actually, people who actually are humble don't have a lot of impatience or low tolerance for people. But people who think they're more than they are, I mean, you may be this, I don't know, maybe you're in Peoria, I don't know what part of Kansas you're in, but maybe you're hot for that part of Kansas.
I mean, I've definitely traveled.
Well, then you should have a better estimation of yourself.
And I mean, I primarily only date black men.
It has nothing to do with just dating black men. Your question came in saying that people told you that you have an attitude. And I'm trying to understand, what is it based on?
That's a great question. I honestly, if I had to say what my attitude is based on, I would say my past, and it's not an excuse, but I'm definitely still trying to.
No. Your attitude for being low tolerance with other people.
I think you're trying to get me to say because I'm not good looking enough.
Well, how about you know what? Don't try to figure out what I'm trying to get you to say. If I want you to say something, I'll ask the question. I'm not trying to get you to say anything other than what you really think. I don't know why people, I think you're trying to, what is this? Oh man. Well, here's the net of it. If your attitudes give you problems, then even the guys in Kansas will tell you give you problems, then you need to change something. But oftentimes when women or people have an overinflated estimation of themselves, they tend to not have much tolerance for other people. And based on what you told me, you have an overinflated sense of yourself.
Can I ask you what makes you think that?
You're 5'5", 190 pounds. And you're cute, but you are nowhere close to being an 8. It's not rude. If you went out for an audition to be a model, right? I don't know if you or anybody in the audience has ever done this. But if you guys think what I'm saying is tough, go out to a cattle call where they say, we're looking for the prettiest girls in town, and watch. Have you ever watched American Idol?
Yes.
And have you ever seen some of these people on American Idol and you're like, these people cannot sing. But they got up there anyway. But then there are people who didn't think they could sing and they could blow. It's the same way with looks. You get a bunch of women in anywhere, and there are women who think too high, not high enough. But when you get in there with people who judge looks for a living, they go through a very formulaic way of looking at things. And if you think I'm tough, especially if you're going to do modeling work, they would say, come on in. Okay, strip down to your underwear. And they will begin to, this is wrong, your hair's wrong, you need that thing out of your nose, or you got a pimple there, or your elbow's out. Look at her toe. No, that's not right. A lot of people can't handle it. They could not handle being scrutinized from head to toe. Just because when you're judging people's looks, you have to be honest with what you see because it's going to be put before everybody else. The thing is, you may not be ready to listen to that level of honesty, but in the world, it's not much different. People are just polite. Now, imagine how somebody walking into American Idol or somebody who really thinks they're talented, who can rap, I can rap, I can sing, I can whatever. You ever seen somebody jump up like they really had talent and you're like, oh my God, they're no good, but you couldn't tell them shit. That's how a lot of women are with their looks. They really believe this shit until somebody sits down and says, you are not talented. You can't sing, you can't dance, that's trash, that's garbage. Because they have told themselves that there's something. What happens with many women today, why you feel like you're dating down, is the world, Western world has not given women an accurate estimation of yourselves. We've removed competition. We've removed beauty standards. We don't want to judge. We got 350-pound women on the cover of Cosmopolitan. So it makes sense to me that ladies are having a problem estimating themselves. And it's frustrating to a lot of women because if you think you're here, then you want outcomes that are up here. But if you're getting outcomes that are down here, that means what? Oh, there's just something wrong with the market. No, it's because you're down here. That's what tends to cause a lot of disconnect. That's why I started right where I started. If you're saying these are the issues you're having with men, they're saying you're this or that, it's because it tends to be with women because you think you're up here. And because if you had respect for these guys, you wouldn't talk to them that way. True or false?
That's true.
So anybody in the comments think I'm just being harsh or mean? No, there's always a reason. Become more realistic about who you are. I'm not saying you're an unattractive woman. I'm saying, I think you rank yourself high. And when you start estimating yourself easier, it's a hell of a lot easier for you to be reasonable and patient with other people. Does that make sense? All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Guys, some of this stuff is not easy to hear, man. But I'm honest. If anybody has ever, I think Simon Cowell is tough on American Idol. You guys would not do well going to Hollywood or getting in front of it.
Now I am joined by Zay for my panel, and we're going to talk about some of the advice that we've heard from Kevin. My initial thoughts is that Kevin seemed to have been pretty honest with the young lady. He told her exactly what he thought, and he was able to see through, her estimation of herself. I think sometimes we put on blinders and we are disillusioned, if you will, by what we estimate ourselves to be. And it's hard for us to consider a different thought, especially if that thought is critical. This young lady felt like her attitude problem was somebody else's fault or somebody else's doing. And it's because she had a high estimation of herself that led her to thinking like that. And unfortunately, there are plenty of women who do think like that. Not saying all, but some women have an estimation of themselves where you'll see a 300 or 400 pound woman who's like, I need a 6-figure man who's doing this, that, and the third. And you're like, wait, miss, you believe you're owed this, but there is a high demand in the marketplace for men of that caliber desiring a woman like yourself. It's not to say it's impossible and it doesn't happen, but your estimation of yourself got you feeling some type of way, and it's not really an accurate, reflection of what the market's willing to offer for you. So, sometimes we all need to have that reality check. With that said, Isaiah, what say you?
Listen, man, everybody needs a reality check to really get in tuned, especially how people experience you, right? We grossly overestimate our looks, our finances, our character traits, things of that nature. But it's only until we get around other people
Mm-hmm.
and can really truly hear the feedback from them
Mm-hmm.
that we really get a glimpse of the reality at hand. Because perspective is reality, right? I'm
Mhm.
walking in my own bubble as if, I'm the main character, the star of this play over here, and everybody else are characters, gig actors, or whatever the case may be. But when you go ahead and hear it from somebody else, it becomes humbling. At the end of the day, it's subjective. Not everybody is going to have the same opinion as you, especially about your viewpoint of yourself, because you don't experience you in the same manner that somebody else experiences you. And so at the end of the day, it becomes reality shattering. And sometimes we all need to wake up from the fallacy of the dream we created in our own minds. So I definitely don't disagree with how he approached it. I think he was honest and very direct. I think, she kind of set herself up to fail in that aspect by not being truthful initially. And it actually led into him proving his point. If you go ahead and lie about the simplest stuff, what makes you think you're not lying about you? So
That's a fact. That's actually a fact. Now, the question is, how do you appropriately tell someone that they're disillusioned, that they're not seeing it the way that reality is showing?
you leave.
With your absence. Okay.
Your absence will tell them everything that they need to know, especially if they believe that you were that high value person that they were chasing. Obviously, alignment needs to be a big thing. If I believed what you believed about me and vice versa, I believed what you believed about you, then at the end of the day, that would be some kind of anchoring point for me to stay. But obviously, you know what I'm saying? The only fallacy that I go ahead and engage in is the video games on Call of Duty and stuff like that. If we gonna go ahead and play in imaginary worlds, I'm the best gunslinger there is, point blank, period. Don't even look at my kill death ratio. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but if it, especially if in metaphorically speaking, especially if you are playing the game, right? So I think absence will speak volumes, especially if I was your target and I don't necessarily agree with the things that you're saying about yourself through your actions uh on a consistent basis. So I think you just leave.
Okay. All right. With that said, I want to get your thoughts on this next video. Let me see. Bear with me. Okay. Transitioning to a new topic. The next video we're about to look at, it's a current event, something that's getting some discussion right now. There's a young lady online who feels like it's appropriate to ask her baby father to pay for her light bill for her and her husband because they fell on hard times. The question here is that an inappropriate ask? So with that said, let's jump right into the video.
So y'all, please help me understand this. My lights got turned off. So I called my baby's father and asked him if he could get my lights turned on for me. He said no, because I have a husband and that's his responsibility. How is that his responsibility to pay my lights to get turned back on after they get turned off? That you have kids that stay here. You don't care about your kids? I understand that I have a husband, granted, don't beat me up over it, but we fell on hard times. So as my baby's father, I feel like you're supposed to pick up the slack. So you rather for your kids be in the dark then to help your baby mother get her lights turned back on. What if I didn't have a husband? Would you have helped me then? These men is crazy. Sir, help me get my lights turned on.
Okay, what say you, Isaiah, about what you just saw just now?
Ain't cutting no damn lights on. Nah, I ain't even letting you finish the sentence. That's some fuckery right there. I gotta be belligerent right now. Like, that's wild for the night. You got a whole husband, ma'am. Like, that's a whole different household real quick. I can understand people falling on hard times and all of that, but nah, get the fuck out of yo, man, I'm going home. Yo, that's straight buffoonery, bro. Even like, yeah, granted, my child is over there and I want the best for my child. Then, yo, ma'am, I ain't gonna hold you. You should have lied. You should have said little Junebug needed something to get that $40 to cut the lights on. Junebug grew out of his shorts and he needed some new shorts or something. But to say that, yo, that unit over there, that mean both of y'all messed up. Both of y'all mismanaged y'all resources. Both of y'all mismanaged y'all time. Both of y'all executed poorly. And I have to pick up the slack for your poor decision making. My baby gonna learn about some candles today.
Okay, so what transitioned into this conversation was the disillusionment of some women. They have no self-awareness about what they're even asking or how they come across as they ask it. So in this video, we have an overweight woman. She got to be like 250. She's married and she has a kid with another man. She comes online in a manner of which she is trying to embarrass her baby father, saying these men these days, they're so much to deal with. How could he, meaning she's shocked at the idea that this would be viewed negatively by any man. Like any self-respecting man would be willing to jump to this and would just be willing to pick up the slack because she has no awareness of how things look. If that man has a baby with you and you chose not to be with him, and then you chose to have a relationship with another person, he has a responsibility to take care of his kid. Now, if you feel like you don't have lights and you think it's concerning for his kid to be in that environment, I think the resolution is to give him his kid. He's got lights. So the kid could be at his house while you and your husband sort out the light situation. Because I'm sure he's already paying some sort of child support to help support his kid, which is why you would feel you would have so much confidence that if you asked him this question, he'd be open to doing it. Because if you knew any better, you wouldn't even pose this question to this man. So then on top of that, you know the guy does not have the responsibility of taking care of you personally. There's another man living with you, and I understand people fall on hard times, but now you're taking the position as if it is his responsibility to not just support his kid, but also to support you and your husband. So now if this man was foolish enough to do this, he is now setting a precedent where he becomes your source for whatever poor decisions you and your husband makes. You just said in the video that my husband is doing what he's supposed to do. How is he doing what he's supposed to do if your lights are off? If he's supposed to be taking care of you and managing a household, your lights are off. Something's not happening properly over there. Now, the question is that crazy that you would think that that man is mandated to take care of you? Because she's saying these men these days, like what? So the baby father has to assume responsibility for you and your husband simply because his kid lives over there with you. Now, I'm not going to say if the man felt out of the goodness of his heart to do that and say, look, my kid is over there. Let me, help you guys out. To me, that's a plus. It's an act of kindness that I'm sure God will reward him for at some point in his future. But to think that it's his obligation to do it simply because he has a baby with you and you're dealing with a whole grown man who's not pulling his weight, who's not taking care of you, and now he and you are his responsibility, I think that's crazy. But to me, and this is a question I'm going to pose right back to you, Azan, the audacity to even try to shame the baby father online. Does that not show some disillusionment, like some like delusionary attributes about this lady?
No. And I'm going to tell you why. The reason why it's not disillusionment is because the child is being utilized as leverage. And this far too often happens in co-parenting relationships to make the other party feel guilty about their absence, non-involvement, or level of participation on a day in and day out basis.
Mm-hmm.
You should give me the $40 or whatever amount it costs because your kid over here, he with Lil Junebug with me all day, every day. I'm taking him around to little soccer practice. This boy can't kick for nothing. He keep tripping. I got to keep picking him up, kissing his boo-boos. He don't know what a boo-boo is, and he 13. Like, come on now. Like,
yeah.
On the real, I'd go as far to say it's a level of manipulation. Understanding that you do hold leverage, that you do hold a little bit of power in that situation, which also lends to an imbalance in the power dynamic, right? And that's not realistically talked about these days, right? I think that was a cry to go ahead and to manipulate the situation into her getting her way. But then I'll always circle back to the fact that at the end of the day, you are an able-bodied person as well, right? I should be the last resort. Now, I want to make the assumption that the gentleman is paying to go ahead and take care of his child, right? What did you do with the finances that he contributed to the well-being of his child for you and your husband to be down and out? Second, and even more importantly, and it is a little bit selfish, but if I did give you the finances, I'm only giving you finances for my child, not you, not your husband, because I'm not in a relationship with you. I'm not in a relationship with your husband. And if he's an able-bodied person as well, he should have the wherewithal, you know what I'm saying, as a protector and as a provider to make things happen. Understanding that, yes, there are things that do occur where you're down and out. But I'm not going to go ahead and be a simp inside of the situation simply because I have a child with you. Does it mean that I don't care about the well-being of my child? I'm not saying that. Give me my baby. Give me my kid. They'll be with me. And you guys go ahead and figure out what you guys need to figure out. And when the environment is conducive, I'll go ahead and I'll return my child over. If anything, this is an opportunity for me to bond with my baby even better. To the point where, you know what? Junebug don't want to go back home because the lights keep getting cut off. And I think and it's no shame in this situation, but at the same token, if you calling me because I got it, then I have it. And so allow me to have it all then.
I agree with you, bro. I 100% agree with you. So this lady asking, so you feel like this is just manipulation? You think it's a common thing? I think it happens all the time because the lady doesn't even feel like, she doesn't even seem like she's like concerned or like she's in the wrong for even asking. To me, it's the shame part of it. It's one thing you fall on hard times and maybe you have that type of relationship with your ex where you're like, look, things are really bad for me and dude right now, and the kid is here and I need some help. To me, I feel like that's a private conversation. If you had any kind of respect for the man and you guys had some type of relationship where, you can go to him and be vulnerable and share the hardships you're going through. I would totally understand, you know what I'm saying, you calling him on a private line and having a conversation. But to go online on social media and to try to shame this guy for not helping you when you're in the midst, you know what I'm saying, of asking him to do you a favor. And then you're like, these men these days, like the nerve of this guy to not even consider helping me. I'm his baby's mother. I have a child by this guy and I'm married to a whole other man. That man's living in the house with me. He apparently has some issues with his job where he's not able to provide, and our lights got turned off. And how come my baby father don't want to handle it? He should just be paying the bills from us. And most men would think, hey, you're not my responsibility. You have a husband. You know what I'm saying? If you have a husband, you're his responsibility, right? Now, if something's going on where the kid's not going to be fairly taken care of, give the man his kid because his lights is on. Why would you subject your kids to a situation where the lights is off when you could just give him to his father? You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm assuming they live in the same area where the kid's schooling or anything is not going to be interrupted, you know what I mean, for them to happen. But I think if the guy does do it, then he becomes, you know, sort of the sponsor for this lady's lifestyle with another man, even though technically as a man who's paying child support most of the time, you are a sponsor for somebody else's lifestyle, living off of your baby mother, you know, and your kid. So, but I mean, to me, I feel like it's just blatant and it's crazy. So for that, I'm like, yo, it's a no-go. So now my last question to you, Zay, with regards to this subject matter is, if you were the baby father who got this call, would you give her the money?
You asking me that question seriously, bro?
I'm asking that question seriously.
No, not in the least.
Even though if your kid's living there.
I will have a whole stack of money looking at it in my hand, and I will tell you, all right, when can I pick up my son? When can I pick up my daughter?
Okay. So you would
because if I give you whatever amount of money it is, it's not necessarily going directly to my child, and that's my responsibility.
Anyway.
So I might as well grab them, and that same amount of money I can spend on them directly. It is a smart business decision. I'm investing in my future, not yours. Give me my baby and the same money. Isn't that what you wanted from me in the first place? I'm helping you out. While the child is with me, you ain't gotta watch him and drive him around. You ain't gotta worry about they ain't got no lights. But if they don't got no lights, then that means there's no power. So there's no refrigerator, right? So that means ain't no food inside of the house either, right? Because that food is gonna be spoiled with no power.
It's a fact. Yeah, the problem's much deeper than just the lights.
I'm actually being the bigger person and doing you a solid because now I'm taking more weight off simply by asking, just give me my child. No. But secondly, and even more importantly, is that it opens the floodgates to a whole lot more, right? What happens if if the husband becomes permanently disabled? He on disability, not enough coming in. You think you're gonna be able to call me to be like, yo, little Rufus can't go ahead and do it this month because his disability check is only $655 and he got child support from his other 3 kids by 2 baby mothers and taking care of me real quick? And then I'm supposed to just pull up and be like, hey, you know what I'm saying? When does it stop? How about I go ahead and I take back my power, my authority in the situation via my child? And just simply say, I got the responsibility from them because you don't have it at this time.
It's a fact.
Remember 50-50, ma'am? I want my 50 portion and you got your 50. And let's call it the day.
So now I'm going to flip the question. Then now the next question is, if you was the husband in the situation who fell on hard times, would you allow your wife to call her baby father to ask for the money to pay for the lights?
Nah, we getting divorced because she brought shame to my name. I can see if this was private, but you put it out in public. I don't know you. You brought shame to my name. You literally dishonored me in front of the whole entire world. What goes on inside of our house stays inside of our house. That's
Poor
rule
man,
number one.
his ego is gonna be fractured by that.
But it's not even an ego thing. It's blatant disrespect, because I'm pretty sure she didn't speak to him before blasting this out to the world.
Fact.
I'm not even talking about her talking to her child's father, because obviously she still is a helpmeet, right? She acknowledges that her husband doesn't have it at the moment, and she was trying to help the situation to uplift them both. But the fact that you broadcasted this to the whole entire world, you didn't get my approval to see if I was okay for it, means that you completely disregarded me in full. Irrespective of what the circumstances are, I still was supposed to be your head. You still was supposed to come to me for guidance and wisdom about this situation, and we make a decision together. You eliminated me. Not only did you eliminate me, you blasted my business out to everybody. You are already on 2.5 strikes real quick. We're not even going to get to the overweight part, right? So you already on strike 3 with me. Yo, listen, you know what? Either you got to pack your bags or I got to pack my bags, but somebody leaving. They ain't no me sleeping on the couch. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get over it. You gonna suck me off to make me feel better? No, because you bruised me in my position of husbandry. You
But
were supposed to.
let me flip the scenario a little bit. Let's actually say that this guy was actually a stand-up father who was actually playing substitute father for this man who's not involved in this kid's life like that.
Don't give a damn about that, bro.
Hear me out.
That's by default. If you marry a woman with a child, bro, that's default. You know what you signed up for, blood.
Hear me out. Sum up for a second. So let's say that the guy who was in the situation was a stand-up guy leading up until this point.
Okay.
He's been carrying the financial weight of caring for this woman and her child.
Okay.
That she had by another man. And let's say that, you know what I mean, they fell on hard times, and prior to that, there's no history or pattern of him asking the baby father for money to cover the light bill. Because she said in the scenario, she said he's been handling his business. So I'm going to take her at face value and assuming that this guy, for the most part, has been holding down that family. Being that he may have been, taking on a financial burden of managing this lady and her kid, do you believe then that somebody should be able to do that? Because I have a friend who married a lady who had a kid, and he assumed the financial burden. And the moment he asked, you know what I'm saying, his lady to circle back with the kid's father to get him to contribute, it was an issue. You feel what I'm saying? So
I see what you did there.
As a man, should there be some grace given to the husband who's been trying and maybe who had, you know what I'm saying, for the most part, covered the living expenses of that lady and that other man's kid, but now he fell on his sword and he's having a hard time, and now she doesn't feel like it's too much to finally ask this dude to contribute something?
So I want to answer that question, right? And I want to answer it this way. One, he chose poorly. Because why are you asking your baby father instead of you putting boots to ground and making something happen too? Secondly, let's give the assumption that you are working. What you do with your money, ma'am? You eat it away? You went to Chick-fil-A? You went to Chipotle?
Really doesn't seem like she's working at all.
You went, because if I'm starving, we starving. We married, right? We supposed to be to become one flesh, right? That means we both going through it. So what's your portion and part that you play in this, ma'am? I'm not. There's no grace needed to be given to the gentleman because he did all the right things and stepping up and accepting additional responsibility that wasn't his in this scenario, right? But what are you doing, ma'am? You sitting there on your ass getting fat?
Yeah.
You ain't think to go ahead and pick up another part-time job? Because I gotta go ahead and do it. What happened to us being partners? So I go ahead and hold everything down, and then you just think that it's okay for you to go ahead and frolic around on the couch watching daytime soap operas and, you know what I'm saying, the Tamron Hall show and shit like that. And then
Yeah.
when stuff hit the fan, now all of a sudden you got to go ahead and scramble. This is what I mean by poor management, right? And it's on both of these, because he should have known the signs and been attentive to it to go ahead and determine, like, all right, if I really get in the jam, this whole house falls. And that's exactly an example of what just happened. And so now she's scrambling. But what were you doing when I was up? Were you putting away for the days where it wouldn't be plenty? Right? Because she seemed like the type that'd be like, his money is my money and my money is my money. So I asked that question, right? Because clearly she made an independent decision. If you're able to make an independent decision, then you're still operating in a level of independence and not of union with your husband. Right? For you to even go ahead and to even ask without my consult, and let's give the benefit of the doubt and let's give some grace, right?
Yeah.
Let's say she spoke to her husband and was like, yo, listen, I know we down at the moment. I'm gonna go ahead and I want to see if my child's father can help me out this one time. The fact that question could even come out of her mouth as a husband would be an insult. For me, that would be a motivator. Nah, I don't care if I got two stubs. I'm out panhandling if I had to. But you are not going to ask him. I'm not going to let another man have a one-up on me in no kind of situation. I will outwork everybody, nubs and all, real quick, until there's no breath in my body left. Oh, we going to get these lights on. Second, and even wait, it gets even better. And I'm sorry to say it just like this, and it's no disrespect. But bitch, you got an iPhone right now that you FaceTiming off of. Why don't you think to sell that bitch before asking your baby father? It's priorities. It goes back to mismanagement. You got everything you need. You just don't know how to manage it.
Okay.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Fuck out of here with that.
All right. So I'm going to transition because that leads into another thing, going back to mismanaged expectations and things of that nature. Now we're going to jump into the third story. The next story has to do with a divorced lady.
Well, fellas,
who apparently, well, I'm gonna let the clip tell it, and then we'll respond to it.
just imagine, you working and hey, sometime you lose your job. It don't be sometimes things that's your fault, but it can happen, right? And you come home and you tell your wife, man, I lost my job today. Imagine her reacting like this woman. Let's check this out.
So you married?
I'm going through a divorce.
What happened with that?
Basically, my husband stopped meeting my expectations.
What you mean?
So when I met him, when I met my husband, I told him what I expect from a man. The number one rule with being with me is you have to provide. I won't settle for anything less. So my husband ended up losing his job.
He had a job?
Yeah, he worked at? He had a job. He was a manager at a warehouse.
Put the mic in so these people can hear you. He was a manager at the warehouse?
Mm-hmm. He was a manager at a warehouse.
Okay.
So he ended up losing his job. He came home and he told me, I'm like, okay, cool. All right. So a month went by and he looked for me to pay the bills. Who paying what bills? So I was going to consider it if he gave me the money back for paying the bills. And he told me no. He felt like he shouldn't have to do that. What do you mean? When I told you as a man, I expect you to provide. Under no circumstances will I ever touch bills as long as I got a husband. None. If you can, you can hear.
He probably happy you don't know.
I'm sure he missed me.
A headache? That would be a headache for me. Like, I know I just lost my job. What if he lied? Do that. Like, I just lost my job, baby, to test. But what is he doing now?
That's childish. Like, what you testing me for? That's childish.
I'm saying to see what I got. Now I see what I got.
If you asked me to be your wife, you knew what you had.
Nah, I ain't thinking I gotta lose my job from the warehouse and they gonna do that.
I mean, but you knew what it was.
So
Like you knew what it was. I told you who I want from the beginning, and you still asked me to be your wife.
oh, you told him that if he loses his job, you going 30 days?
I didn't tell him that, but I told him
What you
like
tell?
you are to provide, and I told him, baby, your money is my money, and my money is my money. And so he didn't have any more money, and that was a problem for me.
Let me tell you something, man. That was the most beautiful thing ever. She going through a divorce with him, man. Trust me. Not only has he dodged a bullet, and you know we covered this woman previously, and just the way she just disrespected him on a good day, but because just a woman is utterly disrespectful. But the thing is, she claimed that he knew who she was. But technically, he didn't, because did you tell him, well, if you lose your job, I'm gonna walk out the relationship? No, she didn't do that. But it tells me, you say you don't touch bills, you don't do whatever. Well, what were you doing? How were your bills being paid before he came along? Because I know good and well you were touching bills before he came along, unless you're living at your mammy house and your mammy was paying all the bills and you just living off of your mama like a bum. Then that's okay. Then that's the case, and that's what it is. But how are you paying your bills before this man came along? If a woman leaves you off some BS like that, yeah, it may like you won't understand it. You're like, man, that's hurtful. That's like whatever, bruh. Look, that is a blessing that the Lord gave you. Say, God, thank you for removing this person out of my life, because this person did not need to be here. Because I promise you, whoever that brother is, you will be greater later. Get that woman out your life, like, man, cut all ties from that woman and move on. And trust me, they got women that's not like that and not stupid like her, because a woman that's silly like that, she's going to be by herself. And she's going to be the main one on somebody else's podcast complaining, I can't find nobody. And this and the third, well, you actually had somebody. I mean, why should the man have to pay you back? You're not his child. You're living there too. It's called a partnership. Yes, men, traditionally pay the majority of the bills. But hey, sometimes, what if he got sick? You gonna leave him? Because now all the time people lose their job, people get sick. It happens. But what if she had got sick for some reason? What if the man left her? Then what? Then they say, oh man, he left her sick and all of that. So yeah, this woman has a horrible, horrible spirit about her. It's horrible. And then you want to have this sassy attitude on top of it. Like I said, she ain't gonna have nobody. Because one thing, like my grandmother always say, them kind of people never prosper. Never. Yeah, never prosper in life. Because when you do good people wrong, it always gonna come back to you. Listen, y'all, I've seen it way too many times with people I've known, male and female. You do somebody wrong like that, God gonna bless that person. But you, on the other hand, you will never obtain what you want, because you just foul. You foul. And yeah. Shout out to dude, man. Yeah, go ahead on and get away from her, because she is not worth not even 60 seconds of your time. Well, fellas, just imagine, you.
Question is it right for a wife to leave her man simply because he loses his ability to provide? What I'm gonna say is, this is the mindset of what it means to be what's in the dating pool right now. Is a lot of women who think like that. I don't believe that God, when he initially stepped out and thought of marriage, he thought that it would be right for a man to marry a woman who think like that. Now, I understand a man has a responsibility to provide, protect, and do all these different things. But if that man, for the most part, has been providing, protecting, and he falls on his sword, he has a moment in life where he's not able to do that, whether due to health or due to a job loss or a layoff or whatever. And if you, as a woman who've been there pretty much benefiting off that man's provision, protection, and the moment he needs you to help him, your reaction to that is, I told you I wasn't here for that. Now, that video actually continues. This lady goes on to say that she goes on and tells his friend, his best friend, about the issue. She cries on the best friend's shoulder, ends up sleeping with the best friend because the best friend gave her the money. And because the best friend was all the man she wanted, somebody who's a provider, she was able to move on to that. And now, you know, the guy wants a divorce. But to me, it's almost like the perception that a man is just the utility, and if for whatever reason he falls on hard times, there's no need for him to even exist or to even be viewed as someone to be respected and loved and cared for, is a predominant perception that exists right now with a lot of. This is not a young lady, by the way, but a lot of this generation of women who think like that. And it's unfortunate. And it's one of the many reasons why a lot of men are not eager to get married. Because they're like, yo, I wouldn't want a wife like that. But in my personal life, I could say I know people who have had wives like that and who have had experiences like that. What say you?
I don't even know where to begin. First off, I don't even want to call her a wife because wives don't act like that, right? I am going to say that she engaged in a transaction, a business transaction,
Mm-hmm.
the way that she described it. If you told them up front or set the expectation that, you know, if your money is my money and my money is my money, this is transactional. And so at the end of the day, the premise is if I, being the man, lose my money, then this business transaction is over with, right? I
Mm-hmm.
blame the dude for even engaging in that one-way bargain. I don't know his self-esteem. I don't know how he feels about the quality of women that he has access to,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not he can attract that. But clearly, at the end of the day, my man's was down on his luck. Maybe probably one of his first bad chicks in life, and it was just like, yo, I can't do no better. I'll go ahead. This is the easiest deal. It's some arm candy on my arm,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that she clearly wasn't a wife. I just circle back to the dude because the signs are there. This mindset was already embedded, especially in this culture. And if that's who you chose to go ahead and to partner up with for marriage, then at the end of the day, your decision making skills was compromised to say the least.
I'm going
So
to defend him a little bit. And let me say why. Because I think at the time that he met her, he had it. And what man doesn't feel like, yo, I got it, boo. Don't even worry about it. I'll take care of you. When you got it. He didn't really see the true essence of her character. Her saying, I like to be kept as a woman is a common statement that most women would say. I like a traditional man who takes care of his business and handles the home. Any man would say, yeah, I take care of my business and I handle the home. It's not until you actually get into a situation where you're able to see how that person is during an adversarial moment.
right, but isn't that what the dating process is for? To see you in enough seasons to make an informed decision? Or was he
That's
just
true.
thinking with his dick?
That's true, and it's not true. I mean, there's a lot of men who's been victims to it. I'm not
Of
making
course.
an excuse. Yes, maybe she was this blatantly flagrant with her personality and attitude when he was dealing with her. But I don't think that's what it was. I think a lot of times these women will lead these men to believe that I got you, I'm here to support you, I'm here to love you. It's like a playbook. And then until that man, as long as that money was coming in, there was no reason for him not to feel that she had his back. Up until the point the money stopped coming in. Now, to me, I thought homegirl was a little ratchet. I ain't gonna hold you. That's what I thought about her. Just keeping it a buck. I didn't really think that she was any caliber of wife, but there's a lot of women who present like that. You know, they got a little twang, maybe they're a little, you know, urban with how they move and stuff like that. And some guys like a feisty woman and they're like, oh, okay, you just feisty or whatever. But when you get into a situation where you start to see the true character of the person to the point that not only did she, you know what I'm saying, try to play him when he say, yo, can you help out? You know, like if the man 99% of the time was able to cover the rent and you got it, one time he asked you to cover the rent and it's you got to go sleep with his friend and he's less of a man and you shitting on him on, you know what I'm saying, on national television or on social media. That's crazy. And to this guy's point, yeah, absolutely. You know, thank God that happened to you, bro. It might hurt, but any man who's ever, and most men think like this, most, I'm not saying all, but most men think like this. When a man meets a woman, a lot of times, he's always overlooking red flags. You meet a woman with multiple kids, multiple guys, she's down and out, she needs help. Major red flags off rip. But because, you know, you want to be her, you know, savior in a way, you want to help her, you want to, you know what I'm saying, kind of step in and maybe cover up, be her covering, cover her flaws and her things. Because, I mean, in the Bible, it talks like that, right? You had Moses had some kids. Was it Moses? Yeah, it was Moses. He had some kids. He got drunk. One of them made fun of him. The other three came in, backed into the room, and put a blanket over him. So one kid saw fit to embarrass him. Another one saw fit to cover him, right? There are some people out there that are good people. They could sit here and point all your flaws out. They could sit here and say, oh, why you made so many mistakes? Oh, I was young. I was this. I didn't know any better. I didn't have my father in my life. I ain't did this. I was seeking this. And some men don't want to throw rocks at you. They just come in and they cover you. Don't worry about it. Come in. I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that kid that his father's not involved is like, don't worry. I'll you know, be a father figure. To me, those men should be commended.
Of course.
Not they're scrutinized these days, but for the men who's willing to take on the burdens of somebody else's poor decision making, there's a part of you that has to honor and respect the man for his willingness to do that. But then for you to get into a situation where once that man has shown you so much grace, for you not to care and for you to shame him and embarrass him and throw stuff in his face when he was willing to cover the bills 99% of the time, and one time he needs you to help out, it's this ultimatum. If you're not going to pay me back, then I'm not going to do this and I can't stay with you. And, you know, like the guy can get another job.
Right.
His life is not doomed. He can get another job. But for him to be in a position where now he's starting to see who you are. And despite the fact that he showed you grace, you have no grace for him. And not only did you do what you did, but then you go on to sleep with his best friend and do that. Bro, that is a lot of people's storyline right now. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of men go through stuff like that. They work in 2-3 jobs for a stay-at-home wife who's getting knocked down by the mailman. And the dude's walking in like, wait, I paid all these bills.
It's not even the mailman, son. It's the Amazon delivery driver that comes.
Amazon delivery driver. You know what I mean? Like, come on. He paying off your student loans, your school, your this or that. He's working so you can live a life. And because he's not there, your legs is wide open. And he's the one who's to blame. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to actually shame the shameful people. And that's what I'm saying. Too often, the shameful people get a pass for being shameful. It's like, nah, you know what I mean? You got to take some responsibility, miss. You took a vow to this man for death do us part, for better or for worse. He's your husband. That was our show. We've gotten some feedback from our panel, and we invite you to let your voice be heard. You've seen the 3 different clips that we've shown today. You know, we welcome feedback and input from our viewers on the various topics that we talked about. Maybe there's a vantage point we didn't cover, but if there's something that you feel like we missed, feel free to weigh in and join the conversation. For those who's not connected to the show, like and subscribe and let your voice be heard. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, be well.